Hey guys, what's going on? This is Shaun of the Dead back again. I just finished up my Glock review, and I put that out there, and I thought about something. When I'm showing off my gun, obviously you notice that I have my finger off the trigger. Gun's always clear. I don't care if people call me a safety gun Nazi. I was raised right, and I understand how to respect a firearm. The minute you lose respect for a firearm is the minute that, it's going to bite you. So. My buddy Bushcraft Medic, for instance, he's been carrying blades and messing with edged weapons and stuff for a while, and he cut his middle two fingers, sharpened his blade. Accidents can always happen. The minute things go wrong, next thing you know, just that fast. So make sure you're always careful, especially with firearms. I have a buddy that I used to shoot matches with. He's a master class shooter. He's a great shooter. He's taught me a lot of stuff, especially with the Glock. He really helped me a lot. Great guy. Leave him nameless for this, because he was telling me a story that he was had an accidental discharge of his firearm in a calm situation. It wasn't like he was out doing an action shooting match or anything. The guy's a former military guy. He was in the sandbox several times doing tours, and accidental discharges, it happened because, the way it sounded, he just lost the level of respect that he needed at that time. And now his level of respect has jumped up, and he's a lot more safety conscious than he was previously. And he told me that story so that way I would learn from his mistakes and stay more safety conscious, which I'm pretty safety conscious anyway. But I appreciated that bump in the right direction. So today what we're going to talk about is one of the things that him and several other people at IDPA taught me, is about how to hold your firearm properly, specifically your handgun. I'm using my Glock as my example for today. Now here we go. Let me see. Try to get it turned here so you can see me well. When I started reshooting guns again, I grew up with firearms, and Dad had some revolvers for the most part. So when I shot handguns, I was good old-fashioned cup and saucer. Well, that's great for revolvers. That's not a problem because you don't have the same kind of dynamic with the firearm as you do with an auto. So cup and saucer is okay. It's not so bad with a revolver. And I'm not a big revolver guy, so I haven't really come to real comfort with my revolver shooting yet. Except for cup and saucer seems to be my more comfort zone with revolvers. When I went to my local range, there was a guy out there who was a former tactics officer for a police department, and he got me putting my hand here, squeezing down with just my left hand, and leaving my right hand completely relaxed and letting the Y hold the gun into place. And that way, this hand's not tense when I go to pull the trigger, so whenever I do a proper trigger pull when my fingertip is only the thing on the trigger, not gripping the trigger like this, so I'm not pushing the trigger or I'm not pulling the trigger, which is, you can see, a gross, over exaggeration is, it moves the gun. Well, it does move the gun whenever you don't put your finger properly on the trigger and pull straight back. And, if you do that, if I do this, if I do this, I mean, you literally will, this again is an exaggeration, but you will do this, to some degree whenever you over grip that trigger. So you want to make sure it's just the tip of your finger for one. And then second of all, by holding my hand on here real tight, I'm relaxing my trigger hand. Now I can just focus all the energy from this hand on just getting a proper trigger pull, which my groups went from this to this after like 10 minutes of him talking me through some stuff. The other thing he told me to do is to stop shutting one eye and keep both eyes open, and I come up from whatever position, and my firearm comes up first. I'm showing you from up here because you can't see my hip. But essentially I pull the firearm up, turn it this way so I am pointing towards the target, and then as I bring it up through my center of my body, I'm already looking at my target, and then I bring my firearm up into my vision, and I've got my sight picture. By the time I see my sight picture, right here, I start my first shot. If you're shooting like competition or something because you don't want to shoot from the hip. If it's a defensive situation, you'll pull your firearm from your hip, which will be like this, and you'll fire your first shot from the hip. Then you'll fire your second shot when you get your hands together, and then by the time that you get your sight up, you should be on your third shot. in a purely defensive situation when you know that there's nothing to hit behind the target. Again, do not point at the firearm or pull the trigger unless you know what you're going to hit, unless there's nothing, there's nothing else behind that that you want destroyed. Okay, so only in dire emergency, when you know that there's no casualties behind the intended target, may you shoot those ways, or unless you're on a closed training course practicing that way. First shot should be once you have your good sight picture up and you're moving your way out. Now you'll notice that I don't hold the gun. I'm not holding the gun the same way I just showed you. I'll tell you why. As I refine my grip through IDPA. First off, I was holding like this, and I was doing fine. Went to IDPA, and I learned about riding the slide, where you put your thumb just underneath the slide on the lower receiver part of the hand grip of the gun, and that gives you more contact on your handgun. Whenever you have more contact, it gives you a more stable platform to hold onto your firearm. So when you get your sight picture, you have more of you on the gun. That's going to keep things from getting so rattly on you. You're not going to have so much, wiggle and play. So if I'm back here too far, and my finger's back here, I have all this in the front that's not being touched. So, things can wiggle around. You don't want that. What you want is you want to have something up there. Now, I have something touching it. So even if my finger is not on the trigger, I still have something there to hold on to. Something solid. It's kind of like having a splint on a broken finger or something. You have one splint down the side, your thumb is that splint for your gun to make sure you fire it properly. Okay? Now, second of all, you notice that I keep my finger up here, and whenever I was showing you not having my finger up there, pretending like it was on the trigger, I had it cut back. Because again, you want to keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. So in IDPA, you can't even do this. It must be up high, and there's a reason for it. If you trip, because there's a lot of running and shooting, you trip, your intentions could go to the ground and your fingers could claw. And if you do, you're just going to squeeze the top of your slide. If it's down here, it could slip right off and you could discharge your weapon. So finger comes up nice and high. And I can still slide it down just as easy as I need to. It's not like it's a major thing to go from here to there. It's pretty quick. So, it's not a detriment to have your finger off the trigger to there. Now, if I was, doing something more combative, it was for defense for my home, I probably wouldn't have my finger up here. I'd probably keep it down here, just to run right along underneath the slide as I do my thumb. And as you see, whenever I do most of my stuff, you will see my finger there, because I'm not running and shooting. When I'm running and shooting, yes, my finger goes up here because I want to accidentally discharge. Whenever I'm doing stuff around, either in my home or at the range or whatever, I have it here because I'm not running around and shooting. I'm manipulating the firearm, so I keep it at a lower angle. Something else is to make sure that you always keep everything underneath the slide in the back here, because if not, it can come back and bite you, as most people already know. Just a quick follow up with people on that. Other things on the grip, is make sure you get a gun that's right for your hand. I have a lot of handguns that are subcompacts and stuff, and my pinky tends to hang off the side. I don't have much of an issue with it because I can grip down on it like that anyway, which is fine. So I don't have any real issue. So one of the things is, try to get something that's comfortable, and make sure that whenever if you don't like the way that it feels, buy some extra set of hand grips, get something on it that makes the gun feel right to you, so that way whenever you manipulate the firearm, everything is right where it needs to be. So that's the basics of how to handle your pistol. Now, one final thought is there's a method called the push and pull method. So whenever I'm firing, this hand here, my front hand, is pulling. This back hand is pushing. So I'm pushing and pulling at the same time. And what that does is it gives you the stability to not have flip. It makes the gun rise because you have yourself locked in and you're leaning just a bit forward into the fire. When you're firing the shot, you're leaning just a bit into the gun and you're pushing and pulling together, so it makes the rise come up level and back down level. So it comes up, and you're right back down to the sight picture, and then you fire next shot. So instead of doing this, it goes boom, 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 boom. Which brings me to my next thing. unless you're doing double taps, which is fine, to go pop pop, you know, to know what you're doing. That takes some time and some practice to get those. You want to get what's called a shooter's cant, which is like, you know, a cant of a horse or the way a person walks. It is your rhythm of which you do things. So a shooter's cant is one of those things. With my shooter's cant, whenever I go to the range, my range is a little particular. You have to keep things a little slower. I may shoot a little faster than they like, but they also know me pretty well, and they understand that I'm a trained shooter, and it's okay. But if I get a little too fast, they say, hey, go, Sean, sorry, and I slow myself back down because I try to always increase the speed of my cant. And what that is whenever I shoot, the muzzle rises, and as soon as it comes back down on target and I have my sight picture, I pull the trigger again. So it's like bam, 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 bam. And I want that every time. I want to be able to get as soon as I get my sights on target, I want to pull the trigger. And whatever the gun does, it doesn't matter. As soon as it comes right back on target, I fire again. So you want to, as soon as you get your sight, bam, bam, bam. And it should be consistent, shot, shot, shot. So if I'm shooting, boom, 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 every time. Now, another thing is, with your shooter's cant, is some of the big pros that I shot with that are far better shooters than I am, is they can actually let the recoil of the firearm drag them to their next target and then shoot again. I haven't quite got to that level yet, and their shots, doing like Mozambique drills. Mozambique, by the way, is 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. What they'll do is their Mozambiques go bam, bam, bam. There's identical space between all 3 shots, because the philosophy is it takes you as long to aim as it takes you to aim, no matter how many shots you're firing and what area you're firing in. So if I'm going bang, 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 well, that means that I've taken longer to take that second shot. So that means I'm probably shooting my second shot, that third shot. That means I'm probably rushing that second shot if I go bang, 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 because I didn't aim properly for that second shot, or else it should have been bang, 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 because it takes you just as long to aim for the second, third, fourth, fifth sequential shots as it does for that first one. So I pull up, bang, 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 okay? Or as you get more smooth, by the way, means fast. If you go bang, 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 you know, oh, well, great, you shot fast, but you probably didn't hit jack because you're jittering all over the place like a crazy guy. So what you want is smooth means fast. So it means you pull up, everything is smooth, and you want to move as smooth as possible. You want to walk as smooth as possible. Some of those masterclass shooters out there taught me a lot, and they'll walk around with a water bottle, holding it upright with it about half full or so, with a black line around it so they can see it, and they try to walk around their living room without sloshing water around to get themselves smooth. That means that you're keeping your firearm, you're keeping it at a nice sight picture level, and you're not doing this as you walk. So that means that you're going to shoot smoother. So as you do stuff, you're moving the gun where you want it to go versus it bouncing, and then you've got to get control and aim. So those are just some quick little things for you that might help improve your shooting. That they helped mine, from keeping both eyes open to stopping that old school, cup and saucer up here, and then eventually to a nice ride the slide. When I ride the slide, you want your wrist, everything pretty straight. See if I can give you a good shot of it. So I'm not here. You want to ride the slide this way. When I ride the slide, I don't want my thumb up, and I don't want to be in some weird angle. So what you want is you're out. You want to keep your arms slightly bent, and you want to keep this here, and you want this to be as smooth as possible, so you have a good, comfortable platform that you're shooting on, like so. So when you're riding the slide, you can see that it's out there, nice and smooth. So, and that's riding the slide. So again, that's Shaun of the Dead. If you have any questions or comments, video responses, please post them. And as always, respond. Subscribe.